The legendary Pokemon Tapu Bulu is returning to Pokemon GO's raid battles during this week, and I actually believe this is one of those Pokemon that you might actually want to get. And I'm going to be talking about all of this as well as how you can take down this raid boss in this video. Let's get right into it. Hey, what's going on, y'all? I'm Jinsula. Welcome to today's video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's dive right into it. So today we're going to be talking about the Pokemon Tapu Bulu. This is going to be a legendary Pokemon that will be in raids during this week, and I actually think it's a bit of an underrated Pokemon. For a majority of players out there, they might actually need this Pokemon and not necessarily realize it. The reason why I say that is because Tapu Bulu is actually a really good grass-type raid attacker, but on top of that, it actually has some uses within PvP. It can be a very solid Pokemon for a variety of different specialty cups, and for a lot of people out there, they may not necessarily have really good grass types when it comes to raid battles that are weak against grass. So I think this Pokemon is actually worth getting, especially if you are a newer player, but maybe veteran players may skip out on this Pokemon, and that is totally okay. And also, taking down this Pokemon is actually quite easy. We've gotten a lot of Pokemon over the years that have been really solid against this particular raid boss, and I think it's one of those where if you're looking for an easy legendary to farm up rare candies and rare candy XL, this is definitely one of those. So yeah, I do think it's a pretty decent raid boss, and it's one of those that you should not ignore. So let's go over how you could take it down. Let's talk about those counters, because I think a lot of you have some really powerful Pokemon up against this raid boss that you may not necessarily be aware of. So Tapu Bulu is a legendary Pokemon with a very unique type combination of grass and fairy. This actually gives it a bunch of different weaknesses, but in particular, it's going to be double weak against poison type attacks. That should give you a hint on what the best counters are. You will want to lean in on doing a whole bunch of poison type raid damage, but it's also weak against fire, flying, ice, and steel type attacks, so if you do not have good poison type Pokemon, you could opt to use any of those. Now in terms of resistances, Tapu Bulu has quite a few. You will want to avoid bringing any Pokemon with dragon type attacks, as well as dark, electric, fighting, grass, ground, as well as water. And of course, it's going to be strong against these types as well, so avoid bringing these Pokemon in general. Now if you want a 100% IV Tapu Bulu, you're going to want to look for one that is 1953, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2442. And Tapu Bulu is weather boosted by sunny weather as well as cloudy weather, and I will say getting a 100% IV of this Pokemon might actually be beneficial. And if you want to secure the win against Tapu Bulu, it is going to be a pretty easy boss compared to most others. You're just going to need a raid group that consists of 4 to 6 trainers, and if you want to challenge yourself, you can duo this raid boss quite easily. Now, let's go over the best counters, and it's going to be pretty straightforward. You are going to want to bring the absolute best poison types in your collection, regardless of what they could be. And these could include Mega Beedrill as the Mega Evolution. This is probably the one unique boss where Mega Beedrill is the absolute best, and you could also go with Mega Rayquaza with flying type attacks. That is, of course, one of the best Pokemon in the game in general. But if you're going to use Mega Beedrill, just make sure you're going with a poison type fast attack as well as a poison type charge attack. Those are going to be essential up against this raid boss. Now another Pokemon that is going to be really good against Tapu Bulu, and pretty much a majority of you probably already have it, that is going to be Eternatus, and make sure you go with poison type attacks. And then an Ultra Beast that we got very recently is also going to be good, and that is of course Nihilego, which is often considered one of the best, if not the best, non-Mega Evolution poison type Pokemon in the game. And then there's also Naganadel, which is another Ultra Beast that is another solid poison type raid attacker up against Tapu Bulu. And if you do not have any of these for whatever reason, there is also a really solid budget counter, and that is going to be Roserade. Roserade is actually really good against Tapu Bulu, mainly because it is a very good poison type raid attacker. In fact, for the longest time, it was often considered the best poison type raid attacker for quite some time, and then of course we had a whole bunch of Pokemon come out. So yeah, it is a pretty solid Pokemon if you're lacking in good poison types, but again, you could go with fire types, flying types, ice types, or steel types, and you'll be okay. Like for example, if you do not have any of these Pokemon, but you have like, let's say a Duskmane Necrozma, that could be one you could use. It's really very versatile what you could use in terms of counters. But Tapu Bulu is a very easy raid boss, and like I said, if you were to get lucky enough to get a 100% IV, it might be worth powering up if you do not have a whole bunch of Pokemon in your collection. Considering how easy it is to take down and you do not need a whole bunch of trainers, you could definitely farm up this raid boss with no issue. Alright, pretty straightforward raid boss. I would say you should treat it as a pure grass type because when it comes to grass type counters, we have a lot of very powerful options. But again, this is one of those raid bosses that are incredibly easy, and it has the unique effect of being double weak to poison types. So all of those Nihilegos that you collected a couple of weeks ago, you should now use them. They're going to be really good. In fact, there's not even any Shadow Pokemon or Shadow Legendary Pokemon that are going to out DPS it, believe it or not. So I think it's a very easy raid boss. It's definitely one you could farm up, but of course, we are getting Pokemon Go Fest in a couple of weeks, specifically the live in-person one. And for those of you who are not going to be attending the live in-person events, we have the Global Go Fest, which is what we just found out is going to involve a lot of raiding. Like there's going to be, of course, the raid battles for Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Mewtwo Y, but we're also getting a whole bunch of legendaries for each day of the global event. So I will say what's probably the most important is that you save your raid passes, as many of them as you can. So maybe you could skip out on this raid boss if you already have good grass types. And yeah, I think you'll be okay. But for some newer players, it may not hurt to have a couple of Tapu Bulus, especially because grass types are really hard to come by. I think the only other really solid grass type that would be much better than Tapu Bulu is going to be Kartana, and I think because of that, Tapu Bulu may not necessarily be a everlasting Pokemon. It's not going to be future-proof, but at the very least, it is a very solid one if you do not have Kartana. So yeah, that's something you should keep in mind, especially if you're a newer player, mainly because you might need some grass types for Pokemon Go Fest Global. That's just something that I will throw out there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing really else to talk about regarding this raid boss. Again, poison types are the key strategy. They're the ones that you're going to want to bring to this raid boss, and if you do not have good grass types, you should definitely raid for this boss. It's pretty good. And of course, fairy types. I think it's a pretty decent fairy type as well. Let me know your thoughts regarding this raid boss down below. Are you going to be raiding for Tapu Bulu? Do you feel like this is a skippable boss, that it's not necessarily that valuable? Share your reasons for thinking that in the comments down below, and let's have a great discussion. And if you enjoyed this raid guide and you found it to be helpful, make sure you hit the like button for this video. That would support my channel quite a lot. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn on that notification bell. And also consider checking out the links in the description below. One of them is to my Patreon page, and if you want to play Pokemon Go with me, best way you could do that is by becoming a Patreon member. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you go and check it out. And yeah, that's it. That's gonna be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you in the next video.